Здравствуйте! Доброе утро, добрый день. Меня зовут Вера Алексеевна Полякова-Норвуд. Добро пожаловать на урок русского языка. Welcome to our Russian class. Today, we will talk a little bit about Russian holidays and celebrations, about different customs, traditions, and greetings, or in general what the Russian people celebrate and how they celebrate it. Let's begin by learning this word, праздник. Праздник, по-английски a holiday. Праздник. And listen to how I say this word, праздник. Right in the middle, we have the letter D, but this letter is mute. It's not pronounced. This doesn't happen very often in the Russian language, but sometimes we do have these mute letters just sort of sit there and don't do anything. Праздник. Праздник. So today we are talking about российские праздники, Russian holidays, and how they are celebrated. On праздник, the Russian people greet each other with this greeting. С праздником. Happy holiday. С праздником. Notice that this Russian phrase consists only of a preposition and a noun. С праздником. And also in this phrase, the word праздник carries this ending, om. We haven't studied that case yet, but maybe in Russian too we will. С праздником. This corresponds to happy holiday. That's what the Russian people say to each other on a праздник. С праздником. And say it one more time. С праздником. С праздником. And also on a праздник, Russians send to each other greeting cards. And on greeting cards, you very often read this same greeting, с праздником, с праздником. So let's take a look at some greeting cards. And I want you to read what you see. Read the phrase that you see on them. С праздником. And one more time. С праздником. С праздником. Ну, хорошо. So what kind of праздники do people celebrate in Russia? Let's start at the beginning of the year on January 1st, and we will try to go through to get through the year and see what is celebrated and on which day. On January the 1st, what do they celebrate? What do we celebrate? What is celebrated in general? The New Year's Day. Новый год. Новый год. Новый год. And Новый год, the New Year's, is a huge celebration in Russia. It is one of the biggest secular holidays of the year. And the Russian people believe that your New Year, Новый год, will only be as good and as happy as the celebration that you throw in its honor. You really have to prepare well to see the new year in, to enjoy a lot of luck and a lot of happiness in a new year. So Новый год, that opens a new year for us, is a very, very important celebration. And it takes a lot of time to get prepared. You have to have a large meal, and you have to have your entertainment ready. You invite a lot of people over, and you celebrate for hours and hours and hours. Typically, a New Year celebration begins on December the 31st at, say, about 8 or 10 o'clock at night. So you sit and talk and eat and listen to music, and you talk about the old year and everything that you experienced. So you see the old year off, and then the important moment arrives when the Kremlin clock chimes 12 times and the new year is in. You have to see the new year in with all this jubilation, with all this merrymaking, because you know your new year is only as good as the celebration that you have in its honor. And sometimes people stay up till 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning on January 1st still celebrating. But also you need to remember that if you are in a big Russian city and you go to someone's house, you use public transportation, and everything stops after 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's nothing from 1 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Then you have to stay and celebrate till 6 o'clock in the morning, and then your buses, trolley buses and other modes of public transportation are moving again, and you can go home. But until 6 o'clock in the morning, you're stuck there, so you better make the best of it. Новый год. And on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, people exchange this greeting. С Новым годом! Happy New Year! Again, we start with the preposition с, and look at this ending on год. С Новым годом! Happy New Year! You say that to everyone that you meet on December the 31st and January 1st. С Новым годом! And you see this greeting on a lot of greeting cards, so let's take a look at them. С Новым годом! And what do we read on this card? С Новым годом! And this one carries the same greeting. С Новым годом! And this one, what does it say? С Новым годом! Хорошо. Then on January the 7th, exactly 1 week after the New Year's, comes a very important religious holiday, Christmas. The Russian people celebrate Christmas on January the 7th because they follow Christianity in its Eastern Orthodox format. And the Eastern Orthodox Church uses the Julian calendar to calculate its holidays. The difference between the Gregorian calendar, which is used in the whole world for secular purposes, and this is exactly the calendar that we use in the United States. So the difference between the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar is 13 days for this present century. And if you calculate the days from December the 25th to January the 7th, you come up with 13 days in the 20th century. In the 21st century, we will have to add 1 more day, and the difference will be 14 days. And that's a very good topic of research for you. You can work on your calendars and see when the Gregorian calendar was first introduced and why one type of calendar is used for secular purposes, and why the Eastern Orthodox Church still follows the Julian calendar for its own purposes. So that's a great topic of research. Ну, хорошо. So what's the Russian word for Christmas? Рождество. 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 Celebrated on January the 7th. And Рождество, in comparison with the New Year's, is a smaller holiday because it's a religious holiday. So people celebrate it in their homes and in their communities. So let's take a look at this picture of a Russian holiday, of a Russian family celebrating Christmas. As you can see, they are in their home, quietly celebrating this day, which is very important for their faith. But I need to make another comment on this. Christmas is not the first in importance for a Russian Orthodox person. The most important holiday is Easter. Christmas ranks a little bit below Easter. Let me say it's the second important holiday for a person who follows the Russian Orthodox Church. And on greeting cards that people exchange for this occasion, we read this greeting, Rождество, Merry Christmas. And again, I want you to notice the greeting begins with this preposition, с Рождеством. Did you recognize the ending? We see it for the third time. С Рождеством. С Рождеством. Ну, хорошо. So let's move on to the month of February. And on the 23rd of February, there's another holiday called Day of the Defender of the Motherland. It is sort of the Army Day, Navy Day, and Veterans Day all together. February the 23rd, the Day of the Defender of the Motherland. This holiday honors not only the military people or those who served in the Russian armed forces, but all men. Because all men potentially can be drafted into the army, so on this day, the Russian women honor their menfolk. But this is not a day off, so people still go to work, and maybe in the evening they would have a special meal. And sometimes women give little gifts to their menfolk in the family. But there is a big holiday for women, which comes in the month of March. On the 8th of March, no one goes to work. Everybody celebrates International Women's Day. This holiday occurs at the very beginning of March, on March 8th. And this is wonderful because, as you remember, Russia is a cold climate country, and you go through November, December, January, February with snow and cold and storms and everything. And by the time March arrives, you are really tired of all this. You want sunshine, you want flowers. So you have this lovely holiday in honor of all women, when womanhood is celebrated in general, and no one goes to work, it's a day off. So men do everything about the house on that day. Women are not allowed to touch a thing. They just sit there and they receive all these greetings and they receive all the gifts and they are given flowers and they are showered with attention, and on TV there are these special shows and lovely movies and lots of music and men recite poetry, and it's just wonderful. It's just great. The teaching profession is monopolized by women, so the day before, all students bring flowers to their teachers. And I remember I really loved the day before International Women's Day, because I would bring home armfuls of narcissus and daffodils and tulips, mimosas, and all the wonderful spring flowers that are in abundance at the beginning of spring. So that is a great celebration. And of course, people send greeting cards, and the students give greeting cards to their women teachers. So that's a marvelous celebration at the beginning of spring. And then in April, in late March or April or early May, there comes Easter. That's the biggest religious holiday for the Russian Orthodox believers. And for that, to get prepared for that holiday, you start way in advance. You have to clean your house. You have to change everything around the house. You polish everything, you decorate your house, and then you prepare special foods. Only for Easter, the Russian people prepare these foods. Now we are looking at the picture of the Easter cheesecake and Easter bread which is baked only once for this day, and Easter eggs. Now everybody knows about the Russian and Ukrainian tradition of painting Easter eggs, coloring and painting Easter eggs. This is really lovely, and you can work on this as a project. The Russian people prefer to color eggs in the colors of the rising sun. So you have all shades of yellow and pinks and oranges and reds, because this symbolizes hope, the beginning of a new day. Sometimes you would see a painted egg and the pattern appears on the black background. Well, in this case, black stands for the darkest hour before sunrise. But it's still black, it's dark, yet it's the hour before sunrise. And that is symbolic of new hope and new life. Another wonderful tradition associated with Easter is exchanging kisses on the Easter day. And you start with your own family, you kiss everybody in your own family, and then you kiss every person you meet on that day. And if you have to give 150 kisses away, so you kiss all day long, in the spirit of brotherhood. So this is always often depicted on greeting cards, so let's take a look at them. That's it. That's kissing on the Easter day. You do that once a year, but you do that wholeheartedly. Now let's continue talking about spring holidays and everything that is associated with it. So we talked about March and April and now May. The month of May comes with two very important holidays. On May the 1st, the Russian people observe Spring Labor Day. In Europe, Labor Day is celebrated on May the 1st. The Russian people get 2 days off, May 1st and May 2nd. It's a 2-day celebration, and you celebrate spring and labor. Usually by May you see tiny little green grass and you see tiny little green leaves on the trees, and you really feel that spring is finally here. So that's the meaning of this holiday. You can now feel it, the sun is shining, there's no snow anywhere, the grass is green, the birds are singing, the trees have these lovely little green trees. You celebrate spring, the presence of spring. And it's also Labor Day, so you have 2 days. And people like to go to amusement parks and just spend as much time outdoors enjoying it all as they can. And it really is nice when the weather's warm. On May the 9th, the Russian people observe Victory Day. Russia lost at least 45 million people in the Second World War, and this holiday is both glorious and very sad, because there is not a family in Russia that has not lost someone in that terrible war. So we remember all those people who died, whatever the reason might be, whether it was someone fighting at the front or a woman who died in a city that was bombed and shelled, or maybe a child who was left without parents and didn't survive. So we remember all those, especially those whom we know, members of our own families, and the tradition is to go to a memorial cemetery and lay flowers there. It's a very sad holiday, but it's also a day of reunion for those who fought at the front and for those who forged those special friendships. So let's take a look at this picture of veterans reuniting on Victory Day on May the 9th. As you can see, they are still full of life and really full of this celebration spirit. It's, as I have said, a glorious and a sad holiday at the same time. And now it's time for us to move to the month of July. In July, on the 12th day of July, the Russian Independence Day is observed, and that's a new holiday. The first time it was observed was in 1992, and Russian Independence Day is observed on that day when Boris Yeltsin was elected president of Russia through a truly democratic process. So, Russian Independence Day, June the 12th. And what do you do on June the 12th? Well, you just go out and celebrate with your friends, enjoy the day. And it happens at the beginning of summer, so that's another good reason to be out with your friends and have a good time. Now we are in the month of September. And if you have been listening closely to everything that I say about the Russian culture and the way of life in Russia, then you already know that something special happens on September the 1st. It's the day on which school begins. September the 1st is the official beginning of the academic year, everywhere, at any level. It can be a secondary school, it can be a college or a university, школа, институт, университет. Comes September 1st, everybody goes to school. But traditionally, students don't have very many serious classes on that day. It's just a good day to go back to school, learn about your schedule, sort of get situated for that school year and get your socializing out of the way. Everybody talks about how they spend their summer vacations and whom they met and what they did and what it was all about. You get all of that out of the way so you can get down to business on September 2nd. September the 1st is known as the Day of Knowledge. The school year begins. And at the secondary level, in every secondary school, on that day there's a special ceremony for the opening of the school year. And that ceremony brings the first graders, the youngest children, and the 11th graders, those who are about to complete their study at the secondary level, together. The 11th graders introduce the first graders to what's going to happen to them, and together they open the new school year. The rest of the student body and the faculty stand at attention, but the 11th graders and the first graders become the focus of the celebration. And now we are looking at this picture that gives you an idea of what happens on September the 1st at a typical secondary school. And you see that this key symbolizes the key to the new school year, to the land of learning, which is about to open for those young first graders. And then in December, there's one more holiday that I would like to mention, and that is Constitution Day. On December the 12th, Russia celebrates or observes Constitution Day. It's not a day off, everybody still goes to work, but it's nice to remember that you do have a constitution. December the 12th, the day when Russia observes Constitution Day. So what do the Russian people do on all of these days? Well, they eat and drink and have people over or go out and just in general have a good time, sing and dance, and there's lots of music and a lot of merrymaking too. Let's take a look at this dinner table loaded with food. Well, a typical Russian holiday dinner would not look as lavish as this, but the idea is you heap as much food on the table as you can. You may not have much for your everyday meal, but according to the Russian tradition, the established way, you really have to go out and celebrate on a holiday. That brings good luck. And of course, when you invite people to come over, you have to introduce them to each other. You have to make sure that everybody knows everybody else. So how do we say meet each other or get acquainted? You still remember? You say познакомьтесь. Познакомьтесь. When a new guest arrives, you take him or her by the hand and say to the rest of them, познакомьтесь. And you name the newly arrived guest. And then when you are acknowledged and everybody starts identifying himself or herself by his or her name, you just say, pleased to meet you. Очень приятно. Очень приятно. And when people leave, when it's time to go, they say, всего хорошего, all the best. I wish you all the best. Всего хорошего. This word sounds almost like хорошо, but it carries a different ending. So you're wishing all the good things. Всего хорошего. Всего хорошего. This is a very appropriate phrase for you to say when you are saying goodbye to a good friend. Всего хорошего. I wish you all the best. I'm about to leave you, but I wish you all the best. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Всего хорошего. And it's time for me to say до свидания. До свидания. Finally, you see this phrase with which I conclude every lesson. It consists of a preposition, до, till or until, and свидания, meeting. Until I see you again. До свидания. До свидания. So, спасибо, всего хорошего и до свидания.